Emotional injuries can be invisible, but their impact is anything but. You might be carrying the weight of traumatic experience, even if you never admit it to yourself. But here's the truth. Healing from those emotional wounds takes just as much courage as the bravery you showed in the field. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about something that often gets overlooked, but is just as important as physical health. And that's the emotional injuries that come from repeating exposure to trauma. First responders are trained to rush into danger, solve crisis, and save lives. But what happens when the person who needs saving is you? So today we're going to dive deep into how you can find the courage to heal from the emotional toll that your job can take and the tools that will help you recover. In this episode, we're going to explore why acknowledging these hidden injuries is the first and most important step in the journey towards emotional wellness. Are you ready to reclaim your strength? Then let's get started. Welcome to Shields Down, Healing for First Responders, the podcast supporting those on the front lines as they navigate PTSD and trauma. Each episode brings stories of resilience, expert insights, and tools for recovery, offering hope and a path forward. So put your shield down, reclaim your strength, and remember, you're not alone. First responders are trained to manage physical emergencies, but the emotional impact of repeated exposure to trauma is often overlooked. Emotional injuries, like physical ones, need attention to care to heal. But it's important to break that stigma about emotional pain, that it's less valid or it's not as significant than physical wounds. Sometimes emotional pain is more crucial than those physical wounds, right? Your body recognizes a physical injury. So adrenaline kicks in and your body removes any of those blood from your heart or your brain and pushes it towards that injury site. Now, this causes that shock to set in, which allows whatever circumstance that you're going through not to be as painful as it actually would be. Let's say like losing a limb or something like that. And because of this, that's the natural response to that. But when we have a mental injury, your mindset doesn't shift away from protecting you from it. It actually focuses more on it, which makes that emotional injury more painful than that physical one. But when you can begin to acknowledge the emotional injuries and say, look, I'm going through something, or man, I really feel, depressed today or stressed out or whatever, this isn't a sign of weakness, right? It's the first step towards that meaningful recovery. And by normalizing this recognition, us as first responders, we can encourage healthier coping mechanisms and a more balanced approach to overall well-being. Now, there are hidden costs of emotional injuries, right? The consequences of acknowledging emotional trauma can be far-reaching, affecting every aspect of your life. And suppressing these emotions are going to lead to burnout, to anxiety, to depression, strained relationships, both personally and professionally. And my friends, it's, I use the analogy a lot about a rock and how it's like, you keep putting these rocks in your backpack and it's going to make you feel heavier and heavier because you're not dealing with this. Emotional injuries, they don't solve on their own. They don't heal on their own. They accumulate and they can manifest in harmful ways if you leave them unchecked. So it's crucial to understand that addressing emotional wounds early, it's like that emotional wound that you get's like a little pebble or a small rock. And you're like, you know what? I'll deal with that later. And eventually this rock gets bigger and bigger and bigger and weighs you down. And it's so heavy that you can't bear it anymore. And that's what happens when you leave these emotional wounds unchecked. And they cause long-term damage. They diminish your job performance and they will not improve anything in your life. So by addressing these emotional tolls head on, you as first responders can mitigate those hidden costs of trauma and maintain their mental health. But there's got to be courage within you beyond that call of duty, beyond running in when the place is burning, right? We're often seen as heroes, and most of the times we don't see ourselves as that. And we're seen as someone who can handle anything that's thrown at us because that's where we run to. Any situation. I've seen many videos on YouTube of different certain events that have happened in life. School shootings, people that are in a burning home, car accidents that are completely traumatic. These different situations we run into, right? A riot in an institution where, inmates are killing each other or certain things are happening, and we run into that. But then when it's something that involves ourselves and it causes us to be vulnerable, we don't have that willingness to ask for help. We're fine. We can make it through this. And oftentimes this leads to that rock getting bigger and people getting so burnt out and so tired of fighting this battle that they often see no other option than to take their own lives. My friends, I want to remind you that you have that strength within you. You have that courage within you to fight this battle. You have to take these things one day at a time. You have to look at each day, one day, as a journey. Yeah, I get burnt out too if I was looking at my full life and going, I can't fight this every single day for the rest of my life. Okay, well, I'm going to fight this today, and I'll worry about tomorrow when I get there. And I found that, my friends, that over time, when I had this mentality, when I had this thought, it's not so overwhelming. It's not so tiring because I'm only fighting this one day. And over time, it begins to dwindle and the fight's not as strong. This kind of courage is going to empower you as first responders to be stronger because there's communities, there's families, there's people out there that need you. But while vulnerability can be counterintuitive, embracing vulnerability is going to foster that sense of healing. We have to be open about our emotional struggles. You don't have to be open to everybody. You don't have to post this on social media. But you can talk to those trusted peers. You can talk to those people around you that care about you and that love you. Right? I know in the first responder community, vulnerability is sometimes seen as a sign of weakness. But let's break that, my friends. Because conditioning to suppress your emotions and remain strong, it's going to break you. So let's break that stigma and say enough's enough. I matter. I can make it to the other side. But you have to be open to it. And when you begin to do this, you begin to shift your mindset from enduring pain silently to actively seeking relief and support. One of the principles that I live by every single day is what they think about me is none of my business. And there's a book out there that you can read. Great book, good read. And that's one of the things of my principles. I'm going to take care of me, for my family, for my wife, for my kids, for myself, because I'm not going to let other people control how I live. If I need to talk, I'm going to talk. And sharing your struggle and experiences is going to foster that deeper connection with those peers and the people around you. Right? I see a lot of posts on social media of, people crying and going through stuff. I don't know if it's real. I don't know if it's fake. I don't know what it is, but people relate to that. Again, I'm not saying you have to share this on social media, but if you're emotional around people that love you and trust you, they're going to relate to that. Because when you are vulnerable, it's going to invite others to be vulnerable themselves. and say, look, yeah, I know what you're feeling. I've been there. And this will shift that mindset from enduring the pain quietly. And it's also going to create that support system built on mutual understanding and trust. And this sense of camaraderie within your organization is going to strengthen that bond. And it's going to encourage an environment where mental health challenges and acknowledged are addressed openly. Think about someone, like I've been in, like I said, working for corrections for over a decade now. And I think about someone just coming in. And I would want them to know my experiences. I would want them to know what I've been through so that they can begin to protect themselves at the beginning of their career and not be burned out halfway through. Because vulnerability, it's a pathway to growth. And I would want to show these people that don't stay stuck in this journey by yourself. And when you begin to embrace vulnerability, it's going to allow you and others to move through this pain and beyond mere survival. Because oftentimes we spend the day surviving. I just need to get through this day. I'll deal with stuff tomorrow. But when you can acknowledge that you're going through a rough day and you're in pain and you have emotional struggles, that's when you're going to be able to process your trauma and find that path. I'm struggling with this. Okay, well, let's go down a path and seek help for that. I'm struggling with this. Okay, let's find that and seek help for that. But if you don't announce it, if you don't even announce it yourself and you're just struggling on your own, that's when you're going to break and you're not going to move into that next phase. Vulnerability is going to open up the opportunity to confront these difficult emotions, to work through them and ultimately grow stronger. It's going to allow you to reflect on your challenge. And then it's going to teach you to develop coping mechanisms and build resilience for future hardships. So my friends, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but once you break free from this tough journey that you're on, you're going to hit another one, right? Life, I believe, is built from struggle to struggle. But that's how we become stronger, right? That's how we build courage. Courage is not built by watching somebody else go through something, right? It's like if you're afraid of heights, watching someone climb a ladder is not going to make you less scared of heights. You have to be the person to climb that ladder. You have to be the person to face your vulnerability head on, to go into those tough times, to build your strength. That's the only way it can be done. And that's why I believe that life throws us these curveballs. Life throws us these times so that we can learn to become the person that we're called to be. Overcoming emotional injuries isn't just about going to therapy or counseling, right? It's about integrating multiple approaches, including physical health, mental health, peer support, mindfulness, self-care routines. Whatever it is for you, you want to work towards becoming that person to have the courage to get through those situations that you're going to be faced with. You want to incorporate some type of physical health, my friends. Don't just sit on the couch and say, I'm going to feel better about this. No, you got to get up. You got to move. You got to find things that work for you. I'm not saying you got to be a marathon runner. I sure am not one of those. But you have to find what works for you. And you have to strengthen both your body and your mind. And that's what's going to get you more prepared to handle those stressors that are going to come at you in the future. Right? Mental resilience is not just about being tough in the face of these challenges. It's about having the flexibility to adapt to the things that come in, the stressors, process your trauma in healthy ways, and bounce back stronger. When you can develop that resilient mindset, you use techniques like cognitive behavior strategies, mindfulness, building emotional intelligence is vital in addressing your emotional injuries that come with post-traumatic stress disorder. But you got to work through this, my friends. You can't just sit back and hope that you're going to overcome this. So today I want you to do what I am commonly asked you to do. Grab your journal. And I want you to write down for the exercise today. Set aside 10 minutes, let's say for the next week, to write about difficult emotions that you're experiencing, that you've encountered in your role, in your personal and professional life. And then reflect on this event. Identify any emotions that surfaced and do it without judgment. You're writing for you. Now, I want you to try to reframe this challenge. How can this emotional injury become a point of strength or growth? How can you become that next stronger, more courageous you? And then write about how you can change the way you kind of approach this similar in the future. If you're faced or when you're faced with this challenge again, how can you approach it differently? Maybe so it doesn't break you as hard. Because that's what we're trying to do, my friends. We're trying to become that stronger, better person for ourselves. So as I wrap up today's episode, I want to leave you with a powerful reminder. Healing from emotional injuries is not a sign of weakness. It's a testament to your strength. You've already been through that event. You've already been through that traumatic experience. Don't let it take up a place in your mind. And just as you face countless challenges in line of duty, you have the courage to face the emotional toll that these experiences are leaving behind. By acknowledging your emotional scars, by embracing your emotional vulnerability, you can take these healing steps. And they're not only going to help you recover, but they're going to empower you to thrive. Remember, my friend, you're not alone in this journey. Whether it's connecting with your peers, seeking support from professionals, or practicing mindfulness, self-care, there are countless of resources available to help you heal. The key, though, is to take that first step. So take a moment today to reflect on how you're feeling. Give yourself permission to seek help when you need it, and know that healing is possible. The courage to heal, my friends, it's within you. And every step you take towards recovery brings you closer to a stronger, more resilient version of yourself. Thank you for tuning in to Shields Down, Healing for First Responders. Remember, healing is a journey, and each step forward matters. Now, if today's episode resonated with you, share it with someone who might need it. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories, insights, and tools for recovery. Together, we'll build a stronger, more resilient community. Until next time, stay safe, stay strong, and we'll see you on the next episode.